Today at Avrek Law, we have Amelia Brummel, founder of TBI Analytics. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I love this that you wanted to do this. So thank you.
I'm so excited. I think this is going to help a lot of clients, but also a lot of firms,
Yes.
law firms, educating them on the importance of this technology.
Yes. Thank you so much for doing this. And yes, I hope you gain some knowledge and some education today. That's all I'm here for is a channel of knowledge with my
Yeah,
experience. And I love sharing. So thank you.
you're filled with knowledge and I'm ready to soak it up.
All right. Let's do this. Today, we're here to talk about TBI analytics and really the differences in traumatic brain injury and what that looks like. And Kristal has questions for me as to how they can wrap their heads around traumatic brain injury and how they can help their clients here learn more and just be more educated. And I love that you're doing this. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming. I
Yeah.
was really fascinated to find out that about TBI analytics that there's a big differentiating factor for brain scans and how important it is in PI. So can
Right.
you tell us a little bit about how
Yeah.
it's different?
Yeah. So there is a difference in brain MRIs out there. You get your standard brain MRI that's
Mhm.
actually just showing the structure of the brain. So that outside layer, where if somebody is involved in a significant enough injury, like hitting their head on something, that it may cause a contusion or a brain hemorrhage, or it could even cause a skull fracture that will show up in a standard brain MRI if it is significant enough. However, most mild TBI cases, there's not enough impact on the brain for that kind of damage to be shown in a standard brain MRI.
Okay.
So we need more advanced imaging. We need multiple sequences that measure different parts of the brain that are where the damage is taking place. So we're doing multiple sequences such as diffusion tensor imaging, and I'll go into that a little later.
DTI.
DTI, so that's your acronym for it. And that's measuring the water molecules of our fiber tracts in the brain. And so we have water molecules running through what these axons that have a myelin sheath material. It's a material that covers and surrounds that fiber tract. I think of it like a power cord even.
Hmm.
This protection is a material that's protecting these wires in here. And if this was to split right open, those wires would come out and fringe. Well, that same thing happens in our axonal injury when something is stirred enough and shaken enough or
Hmm.
stretched enough. Now that myelin sheath is stretched out so far that now those fiber tracts are opening up to the brain, and now we got water molecules that are entering into the brain where they're not supposed to. We've got disconnection of axons, and we're able to measure that in a diffusion tensor imaging DTI. So that's one sequence that we add into the standard brain MRI.
Hmm.
And then you have the volumetric sequence, which is measuring the atrophy of the brain, which if it is damaged enough that over time it can then shrink and show that damage to that lobe of the brain that we're measuring. We're also measuring for swelling of the brain. So if it's outside of the norm of what a normal person's lobes of the brains look like, we're going to be able to see that in that level of imaging. And then you've got your susceptible-weighted imaging, which is also measuring your microbleeds that might be happening in the brain. But with mild TBI, you're not going to see too many of the microbleed type of damages going on. You're going to see that more in a moderate to significant severe setting damage. But with that, we have a comparison now. You have multiple sequences to now compare these findings to and have a cross-reference. And so you're not just dependent on one sequence to say, oh, yes, this person is brain injured. We can actually look at across the board, measuring against the different sequences now, against a normative database, which that is huge. When you're going into litigation, you definitely want to have a normative database to back up your findings. You don't want to just depend on your expert for that. You actually want data to prove that this person has a traumatic brain injury based on those findings compared to age and gender matched normative database. So that is really I expanded a little bit more for this, but your standard brain MRI is typically what most people are going out there and getting, but you really want to get this. And now there is a difference even in what we're doing with that level of imaging versus maybe somebody else doing that too. But that's the little difference there. But if you want to, we can stop right there and then have you do your introduction if you want, or do you want to?
Sure. I had a few questions.
Do you want to go right back into that?
Going off of that.
Okay.
And then
so
we can circle
come back. So no problem. That's how we're going to do it.
Awesome.
I love this. Okay.
So
go ahead.
For regular brain scans that don't have the TBI Analytics technology on top of it, is that for other modalities not PI related, or is that just the outdated version of the technology?
Good question. And so the standard of care in a hospital setting is typically your standard brain MRI. Because of the research that DTI has been doing over the last 20 years or so, if not more, it's finally coming out of research into a clinical setting in the last, I'd say about 10 years or so is where you're really seeing that come up from research, now being used in a clinical setting. So in your typical average insurance case, if you will, most doctors aren't going to be writing a prescription for those extra sequences. Unfortunately, it's just not the way our standard of care surrounding traumatic brain injury in the insurance world is operating. And so they don't recognize, if you will, this level of advanced imaging under insurance. But when you're in a personal injury related incident, now we have the care we can go into outside of our insurance for care that a doctor is recommending that can, put it on a lien based on their injury and their findings to say, okay, yes, this person could use this extra advanced imaging because this is what's going to help them really support their brain injury if they have one. And if they do, this level of imaging should find it. It should break it down to a level where we have a neuroradiologist that's going to testify and go the lengths to say, yes, this is imaging that we are using in a clinical setting. These are findings against a normative database, and we have more backing to support this injury that this person is experiencing. So, yes, I would say this is mostly used in the personal injury setting. And thankfully, we've got this level of imaging to help these people that need to find those answers so they know what to do for treatment. And then on the other side of it, if it's a defense side, if they need to make sure that this person's really legitimately symptomatic and injured, then they can use this to show that there is no findings there. This person may not have a brain injury. Maybe it's just not showing up in the imaging that we're doing, but you got more data to support either side with this level of imaging to do that.
Yeah. Can you please explain to the case managers out there of how this technology would improve their case?
Absolutely. The value is there. And what we've done in the last 3 years is seeing that difference it's making. What happens is that patient is able to now see that over a spread of about 30 pages or more, we're showing and identifying where the damage is, versus you have other imaging companies out there, generally supporting it. And it's good that they're actually offering a more advanced level of imaging just other than their standard brain MRI.
Mm-hmm.
So they might be supporting the DTI and the volumetric sequence and the SWI, utilizing other software than what we're doing, but they may not have that same normative database that they're comparing it to. They may not have that expert that's going to testify to those findings that are in that report that they, found. So with us, it's really that about that extra level of care that we're doing.
The 30-page document,
Yeah.
and then also the doctor to testify. Do you have
Right.
an exciting story? Have you been to court? Have you seen
Oh
them?
man, yeah. Before this company was founded, I have been in court and saw this level of imaging being testified and shown, and it really speaks to a jury a lot much better when you can actually show where the damage is in the
Mm-hmm.
fiber tracts of the brain, where you can actually highlight the lobe and zero in on the actual imaging that was done to be able to show that visual. And that's the world I came from, is being able to identify the person's level of damage through visuals is really that much better to support, so that people can understand what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
and that patient can understand when they're actually seeing, okay, we've got, the main difference is you go to one center that says that they do DTI volumetrics, and they can, measure that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference between their imaging and software they're using versus ours is quite a difference, because, like, for example, this is one that comes from a center that we actually partner with, but we support putting our software on their MRI, because we're actually going to help. We're going to get their tech only. We're going to just use their MRI machine, but we've got our software calibrated to their MRI. And instead of pushing their DTI sequence, they're pushing TBI Analytics, DTI sequence, volumetric sequence, all of these components, right, that we've already got established and calibrated on their MRI. And so when they scan for our software, you're getting a 30+ page report of all significant findings. You're seeing the highlighted damaged brain tracts. You're actually able to, I'm showing her, if you're listening and
Oh,
not able to
wow.
see, I'm showing her an example of one of our reports, and you're actually identifying every brain tract. We're measuring about 30 different brain tracts. And so when you're able to see exactly which one of those 30 or more is damaged, and to a decimal point, you've got some pretty significant evidence to support it, versus the imaging center that says they're, got their DTI and volumetrics. It spits out a 2-page report that doesn't show really anything, and
Not
it
so
has
impressive.
not so impressive. I don't even know what I'm reading, and I
Oh,
get this.
those are just all words.
Yeah, they're just
Oh,
words.
okay.
There's no imaging.
I like graphics much better.
Yes, it's called tractography, when you can actually take the data and turn it into an image that is showing tractography. It's showing actual images, and we all know people are, their words are worth 1,000, images, right? So, or words are worth 1,000 words, or a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yes.
Why am I not remembering that? A picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So if you can show visually something, it just speaks to somebody way more, and especially maybe an adjuster or, the other side that has to see what's going on. There's just more to support. And yes, it's going to cost you, the patient more against, their case. But when the value is there, I just say, you know, um, you want the best, so that you can go forward with the best care and know what this is the rest of their life. And, I would want to know, if this was me, just how bad am I, and where can I go to get treatment? I mean, that's just the thing I would want to know. So if I can get a 30+ page report versus a 2-page report, and it's going to cost me a little bit more, I'm going to go with
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. For the intake team, how would they know, what questions should they be asking in order to know that they should get the bigger, better version?
Yeah, good to know. So I look at it as like tiers of when you're looking at a case and you're looking at where this patient has been, you might be getting this client in at right after the date of incident. You might be getting them a year later. They
Mm-hmm.
may have gone to somebody else, and now this firm has it. So there are many different aspects of. I think of it like a puzzle piece, if you will, because there's so many different avenues that somebody can go down because there's multiple spokes of the wheel to help on a TBI case. There's not
Mm-hmm.
just imaging. There's now that you also have to have the clinical correlation with what symptoms are they having for like neuropsychology. So it's, the big question is, where do we start?
Mm-hmm.
And I have
Right.
heard from multiple neuroradiologists over the 7 years that I've been working in traumatic brain injury repeat this. Symptoms are what negate what basically prompt you to have a brain MRI done. So
Mm-hmm.
if somebody is reporting symptoms of traumatic brain injury, which could mean a number of things, and you can you can Google what are some symptoms of traumatic brain injury, and what we have ChatGPT now. We can even look that up. But some of the main ones are you hear people having headaches now where they didn't otherwise have them before.
Mm-hmm.
There's even a symptom questionnaire for TBI that you can find online. It's a Rivermead. It's a general usage symptom questionnaire where you can utilize it as your own work product for the case managers to take that questionnaire
Mm-hmm.
and literally ask over the phone how that client is handling their injury. Are they experiencing these types of symptoms? And you can just go through the different symptoms that they might be having, because many people don't even realize that they are having a symptom of TBI.
Right.
Right. So that's something that I have seen over the years that, just come up. They could be a year later and
Mm-hmm.
they just don't realize that what they're experiencing is an actual traumatic brain injury,
Mm-hmm.
possibly. Right. But their symptoms are maybe just subtle enough to think that, oh, I'm maybe just having a bad day.
Right.
But if you ask, I would tell the case managers, maybe if there's even a way to talk to family within their clients, family, to say, hey, how has this person been since the incident? Do you notice anything different?
Mm-hmm.
Are they struggling in some areas? Like maybe they have short-term memory. They don't have, or they have short-term
Mm-hmm.
memory loss where they don't remember what they just did, or they don't remember a conversation having one with you, or they don't remember where they put their keys, when they just put
Mm-hmm.
them on that tape. There's things that happen like that, or sleep disturbance. Typically people might have gotten better sleep before, and now they can't sleep. They've got maybe either pain or thoughts running through their head. PTSD is a huge common thing that happens from traumatic brain injury. So these are all things. Behavior is a big one. A lot of people, we hear this in our players in the NFL and all
Mm-hmm.
these other sports related injuries, how they change over time, their behavior's off. And it's really sad when these people don't get that kind of treatment that they absolutely need, and they just don't even know that they have symptoms of TBI.
They don't even know. So, intake team,
Yeah.
remember, talk to their partner, their spouse,
Yeah.
somebody that's close to them,
Mm-hmm.
not just the client.
Right.
Because I've heard a crazy story where he maybe had a big ego or,
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize it himself. But
Yes.
then once they talked to the wife, she's like, no, he's, very forgetful now and about to get fired
Mm-hmm.
because he's getting more frustrated at work
Mm-hmm.
and things like that, where, a lot of the time they might not realize it
Yeah,
themselves.
or they don't want to admit it, because a lot of men, being the breadwinner of the family and the
Mm-hmm.
supporter and the protector, to show signs of weakness is being vulnerable. And that's tough for a lot of alpha males out there that, are supporting their family, and they
Right.
can't show their boss that they're injured. That what would that do?
Mm-hmm.
And when they got to bring in the income. So that's a huge one that we see a lot. And, it is hard to not convince them, but just to show that they might have something going on here, and to get them to admit that, could be a struggle. So just keep that in mind when you are seeing these people in their worst states. Really, it's the worst times of their life to have a brain injury. And so to give them that, that space to just understand that this might be what's going on. And that's why it's nice to just kind of go over these in a nice way, in a subtle way, to say, hey, how's your concentration been from a 0 to 4? And this is what's great about this Rivermead symptom questionnaire, is that they'll do this, like give a rating from 0 to 4 before the incident. Did you have any headaches? And what was the pain level like from 0 to 4? And they'll rate it. And then what about after? What are you experiencing now? And that's just a simple thing that people can document. And if you've got that documentation as early on as possible from that date of loss, that is good. I mean, that's helping that patient, that client, document and understand that, maybe this is something that we should look into. Because it'll support their case later on if it goes to litigation and we're seeing maybe might be some gaps, and there's reason for those gaps because maybe they didn't realize they had a symptom. And that's always, an issue when we see gaps of treatment when somebody is, looking at a traumatic brain injury. But also there is a reason. A lot of times is because they just don't know, or their
Right.
anxiety is up and they don't want to go, whatever the case, right? So we're not doctors out there, and we're not, case managers aren't doctors. So, but they can at least kind of guide and see what's going on to help them understand that.
Do you have a
Yeah.
story about someone receiving regular imaging and maybe not realizing, and then it turned around after getting TBI analytics done?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Wow. You get some good questions. I love it. So, yes, I actually have. And in fact, this is an example. And right in front of me, I have an example where somebody went and got a standard brain MRI. It doesn't show anything because that's not the part of the brain that was damaged, right? They didn't have a big hemorrhage on their brain. They didn't have a brain bleed or a skull fracture. So it's not going to show up in that standard brain MRI. But this is where we can look at maybe getting more advanced imaging. So should the case support it? Should the client need that next level? It's because maybe they still have symptoms. They got that brain MRI. It shows normal, but they're experiencing TBI symptoms. So what's going on, right? So that's where that next level of attention might look into and say, hey, it might be still in pre-lit where, hey, we can maybe take a second opinion on this and get another doctor to reevaluate and see if there's more advanced imaging we can do for this person. So that's where maybe another neurology appointment. So when somebody is experiencing TBI-like symptoms and a case manager is working on this, that next step is to let's get them into a doctor that can evaluate this. And that would be a neurologist that is specializing in traumatic brain injury, because not all neurologists know traumatic brain injury, you would think, but they're specialized in seizures and Alzheimer's and helping nerve function and that kind of thing. But when somebody has a TBI, you really want to make sure you're going to like a pain management specialist or a traumatic brain injury specialist. There are even chiropractors out there that are traumatically brain injured specialists that can help write that brain MRI order as well. So even general surgeons can write a brain MRI order because they are still guiding this patient into the right lanes of where they need to go. And so if it is a traumatic brain injury and they're having, possible symptoms of that, then let's get them scanned and let's get this into the right lane. And so they would write an order, and then that's when the patient can decide where they want to fill that order, whether that be TBI Analytics, whether that be the local imaging center that's promoting other, imaging as well, like us. But really it comes down to getting that initial visit, to initial evaluation. And when you're doing these symptom questionnaires and you have that documented, that's a great thing to go to that first doctor with and say, hey, this is what's going on. At that point, they're going to do their evaluation and say, hey, this is what diagnosis is you need to go seek and see what's going on. And then we'll go from there about treatment. So, Did I answer that question?
You did. But just to
Yeah.
expand on
Yeah.
it a little bit of if they feel that they got a regular scan,
Hmm.
and how is it received when they get a second opinion or they're
Right.
thinking they need a second opinion?
Good question. So that's becomes the opinion of that patient to say, hey, yes, I know it says normal, but I don't feel normal. And
Mm.
that's the sad thing about it out there is the misconception that because you have a normal brain scan,
Right,
that you're
exactly.
normal and you're
That's like
not.
gaslighting
Yeah.
almost.
In the worst way. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it makes these people feel, confused.
Right.
They're lost. They don't know what to do. And that really sends people down a road of behavior, depression, and
Mm-hmm.
anxiety.
Can imagine.
And that's why you're hearing about people committing suicide, unfortunately, when they're not getting that diagnosis and treatment that they deserve to know. Um, and so, yes, it's one thing when, they get that report back to say,
Mm.
yes, there's some damage going on here. Let's get you into
Mm-hmm.
maybe a neuropsychologist now to correlate those findings, because what a neuropsychologist is going to do is run an objective evaluation based on the symptoms they're having, whether before and after. They're going to build, that story as far as what's going on and how is this injury affecting them every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to show in a report, a brain image report, that there's findings of a TBI, but the person could be totally normal and operating just fine because maybe they had a rewiring of circuits and they had some, um, just automatic recovery that our brain can have. But yes, we got to get them into that lane of getting right evaluation of
Mm-hmm.
how do we help with these symptoms. So yes, I totally agree in that the decision has to it comes down to helping this patient understand what options are out there. And so I guess at that point in the case would be, um, we can justify getting that second opinion
Mm-hmm.
because we know that there is better advanced imaging out there that's
Mm-hmm.
actually going to seek the area of the brain that's damaged, like diffusion tensor imaging, right? So that would be, I guess, you could support getting that second opinion is,
Mm-hmm.
well, we need to measure better because this person is, a mild TBI case.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when they're severe enough or moderate enough to showing up on a standard brain MRI, you don't really need to go seek out that advanced imaging.
Would you suggest to anyways?
I would
Yeah.
if it
More
supports it
detailed.
because you have more detail.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Okay, so thank you for answering that. Let's rewind. Let's
Yeah.
try and set it off on the right track, on the right foot from the get-go. So, asking the right questionnaire in the beginning would be
Hmm.
crucial, right?
Hmm.
And then, right, you said that there are chiropractors that are specialized, and so you would make
Yes.
sure that you go to specialized
Yeah, somebody that's been
in
experienced
TBI.
with traumatic brain
Mm-hmm.
injured and seeing that and understanding that these are symptoms of that and that they can, they might be in there for more other orthopedic injury. But at the same time, they're evaluating them. They're seeing that they could have a traumatic brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to send them on their lane. They're not the point guard by any means, right? But let's get them into the right lane of, care that they absolutely need. So, but yeah, that's the first step when that client's coming in and saying about their symptoms and when did this happen,
Or what
jotting
sort
that
of
down.
car accidents are most
Yeah.
likely of like, okay, so maybe their airbag went off. What else should the intake team be
Yeah,
asking?
good question. So sometimes people lose consciousness. They don't remember. Sometimes they don't know if they lost consciousness or not. So that's a good indicator, that's
Mm-hmm.
possible they did. Sometimes they don't have a witness to tell them. So you just go through like what happened, right? And then tell me about, what happened. Take me through the incident. Some people could just be sitting at a stoplight and just totally stopped. And when they get, and then somebody could hit them from behind without maybe even putting on their brakes at all because they're not paying attention. That happens a lot. And so you're now dealing with just a rear ender, a fender bender is what people would call it, but that's not necessary. It depends on how fast that person is coming at you. But the mechanics have shown that you could be in a standstill stop, and that brain going from a still position is now being acceleration forward, and that it's a jello-like substance is our brain, and it's smashing against a jagged, sharp-edged skull that we have. And what is that doing to those fiber tracts that are now being sloshed around, stretched, and switched every which way? And now you're getting that maybe contusion at the front of the brain where that frontal lobe is, and then you're now bouncing it back, a whiplash type injury, and now you're bouncing it against the back of your skull. Now we've got some possible damage there, that axonal injury could have taken place. And so you don't even have to hit your head on a steering wheel or a windshield or a window.
So even if it's a fender bender,
it's a possibility. I'm not saying all of them are.
Right.
It's always based on the symptoms that somebody's having. But basically, it is something to look into if that person is experiencing TBI-like symptoms, whether it's right away or these can even form and progress over a 3-month span. So this happens. You'll, experience maybe headaches a month later, or, that different symptom or behavior is off, and that starts forming in about, within that acute phase of, people argue 33 to 6 months could be that acute phase of injury. So there's, no telling how somebody's going to recover, because we all have some form of automatic recovery that our brain does go through. But how much that's going to do, we don't know. And so that's where symptoms are always the indicator for getting a brain MRI, like seeking a brain MRI, right? And so somebody could have just the airbag deployed, and that's enough for that brain to shake to cause that axonal injury. So I would say when somebody intake is asking about what's going on, yes, it's good to know if they lost consciousness, but it doesn't always indicate that that's, reason why they don't have a TBI, right? So, and then maybe how they hit their head, how bad was the impact? Was it a T-bone? Was it coming head on? There's many indicators for what symptoms they could be having, because symptoms are dependent on the lobe of the brain that's been affected. There's different.
Can you go into that? So, like, you would think it's the front or the back, right?
So we have different lobes of the brain. We have like 5, but more. There's definitely, you got your frontal lobe, your parietal lobe, which the front is here, and then the parietal is on the side.
On the side,
right
okay.
And then you got your temporal lobe, which is going to be your sides.
Okay.
Right, and so that's where we're going to get, hearing, the tinnitus, some ringing in the ears. If you've been in a T-bone or a side hit, you might hit that head on the side of the window. Your cerebellum is another one that gets hit quite a bit because it's right from the back. And the occipital lobe, that's your vision, that's your balance, that's your if people are off balance or having double vision, your occipital lobe. Did that happen to me? Oh, that was the occipital lobe is definitely one that gets hit because that's from the back and the rear, and that's going to affect people's balance. So you're going to see a lot of vestibular issues if somebody, is hit there hard enough. That's what's going to, show up on probably some symptoms. And your eye movements can be controlled or scanned and seen by different imaging as well out there. So there's also the, different diagnostic tests that you can use to understand how somebody's vestibular and balance is working, and that's the VNG test. But that's separate from what we're doing. But it's just more diagnostic tools and more, supportive evidence to support that person's case. So, but yeah, it does depend on what lobe of the brain is injured, because then you're going to see, you can even look that up on what parts of the brain control what symptoms. And that's that's very telling, because not every case is a cookie cutter case, right? So that's why, we have to take each case one by one and really examine what's going on. Yeah, brain injury is a complex thing because of all of the different symptoms that are controlled underneath the different lobes of that brain. So, but yeah, it's really exciting to see that when you have this level of imaging that's pinpointing exactly where the house is on that map, where that injury is on that brain. When you can pinpoint it down to a decimal percentage of how bad it is, and then you have your clinical correlation to say, wow, this makes sense because this person is having these symptoms. And what do you know? This part of the brain in the imaging that we're looking at is damaged.
And it's correlating.
It's just totally correlating. It's connecting the dots. I say this all the time, pun intended, it's a no-brainer that this is what's going on. And when you have that level of supportive data that you can take forward and show whoever you need to show, now you're getting more, believable, truth on what's going on and how can we help. And now that patient is seeking treatment so that they can get better. And so,
yeah, what does that look like? So now that they know that they have a TBI, what are the next steps?
Yeah, so next steps would be definitely the neuropsychologist is able to understand what those symptoms are needing as far as treatment goes. So they will recommend, typically, whether somebody has vestibular issues, they might need to go to a vestibular therapist and get that balance, back. There might be cognitive related issues. They may not be able to do the same work-related tasks that they used to do, and they're going to be able to examine that. And so now we got to get them back into more of a cognitive therapy. And a lot of these providers, which is great, is now moving to the telehealth platform. So it makes it easier for these patients to be in the comfort of their home doing these evaluations to where they can be more honest with their answers. And then they're also not, anxiety driven by having to go to a doctor's office that's unfamiliar, and then being able to try and, report what's going on. It makes it a little harder. So I love that, there are providers doing these telehealth calls, whether it's for a neurology appointment to, have a consultation over the phone as to what's going on. So you don't have to actually go into a doctor's office to get that brain MRI. There is that out there. And then you have the telehealth behavior treatment and cognitive treatment straight from the home. So that is what I've seen where the symptoms of traumatic brain injury. There isn't a whole lot of treatment out there, but we are moving into a day and age where we have modern technology reaching this surface, and I'm so excited about. And it's called frequency medicine, and we're made of frequency. We're made of vibration. Our cells, our molecular structure, turned on by electromagnetic fields of energy. And so when you can correlate that with getting even light and sound therapy for the brain, now we're moving into regenerative type of medicine, where even there is even stem cell, umbilical blood cord stem cells that are under research, but yet they are allowing it to be used in a research setting, yet clinical setting, be able to examine a patient utilizing this level of technology, and seeing the results that that is happening is pretty incredible. So people are able to sleep better. People are able to, and that's the thing, when traumatic brain injured people are injured, right? When they get this injury, sleep is probably one of the first things that goes, and it's hard to get back, sleep. In general, people have a hard time sleeping. And so now you've got a brain injury. We have to get them sleeping again. And there are methods out there that we can utilize to do that. And that is things like brain tap I was showing you. So that's like meditation on steroids. I've heard neuroradiologists say this over and over again. the best treatment that a TBI person can go through is meditation. Meditation for the brain is beautiful because you turn that brain off while you're still awake and you're still conscious. And that's the medicine, basically, is you're turning all of that static, that noise that's coming in from all angles, and especially if you have a traumatic brain injury, we've got to turn that off. And how do you do that? It's really hard to meditate when you have a lot of stuff coming in, that thought brain of yours, right? Well, what Brain Tap does is it basically does meditation for you. You just have to hit play, close your eyes, hit the session you want to listen to. And 20 minutes later, it's like you've had a 3-hour nap, but you felt rejuvenated. You feel recharged. You feel like you can take on the day. It can help you to fall asleep at night. And so that's one modality. And there are so many other resources out there. Another one is NeuroCare Pro. We're very much getting behind that product, where we're seeing a major results with people with traumatic brain injury. Put this brain cap on. I have it right here. And this is just something that goes in its infrared red light laser pulse light medical technology. It's the first of its kind. And the creator, inventor of it is an incredible human, David Christensen, who figured out how to bend light in a way to put it into a modality and turn it to have a controller that actually helps where we need treatment. We can set the frequency on the controller to that modality, and then it gives the brain what it's needing as far as anti-anxiety, depression. It's really helping to calm the brain and the cognitive behavior side of it. So there's so much out there, we could dive into, but there are treaters out there for traumatic brain injury, and it's just a matter of helping these people, show those options and show them that there is help out there. There really is. And we're excited about where it's going. The technology is fascinating. And it's really cool to see that more firms are adopting and really absorbing what's going on here with this level of treatment.
Right. Well, it's all about the patient or client and helping them out. So having this resource is great for them.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's just, these people need help. They're not, a lot of them are told just go, in a dark room and, try not to look at light. And, that's just no way to live. And these people are struggling because they don't know what direction to go into. They don't know what to do. They don't even know sometimes, right, that they have a TBI. So if we can just help them show options that are out there and be more of that support system, that's what we're here for. And so, no question is a bad question. I tell every law firm that's, doing traumatic brain injury that you're actually really helping these people, to reach out. I mean, I know I specialize in the imaging component because of just where I've been in my experience, but I'm also connected to all other spokes of the wheel,
right?
Helping, people to understand what's out there. And there are really good specialists and providers that are there for the right reasons and doing it.
She doesn't gatekeep. That's good.
I don't gatekeep. No.
That's good.
Yeah. So I absolutely want to share, and that's what I'm here to do, and channel of knowledge, a vessel, to help others. And I hope that what we're doing is, I know what we're doing is supportive and helpful. So
most definitely.
I'm excited to see where more firms are finding out and helping their clients, and we're getting our heads around this brain injury world that is so complicated.
We'll send this to a attorney that so that we spread the word.
Yes, for sure. We need to get the help out there. But yes, absolutely anything that is needed. I'm a phone call away, an email away, and this is great.
You're
love
amazing.
This.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
This is great questions, and boy.
Let's see if I have any other ones.
Yeah.
That was really surprising to me to find out of even a fender bender can cause a
Yeah.
TBI. You wouldn't think that something that traumatic happens in
Yeah.
something that sounds so
It sounds, yes, it sounds like so minor, if
right.
you will. And I
Exactly.
don't even like calling the a TBI a mild TBI because people think, oh, mild, well, you're going to get better. Um,
Yeah, what are the different stages
yeah.
or severities of a
Yeah.
TBI?
So, I'm not a doctor, so I can't really say exactly what makes somebody mild, moderate, severe. However, in my experience over the last 7 years, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
working on, gosh, it connected to over 1,000, 2,000 cases, I've been able to see kind of some patterns here. And that's, I would say, if somebody has more of a mild TBI when your symptoms aren't showing up, if you're not showing the damage on a standard brain MRI,
Mm-hmm.
when that's happening, I would say, yeah, that's probably more of a mild case, but mild means this person is still struggling. They are really struggling. They might look normal, and that's what's hard about proving and showing
Mm-hmm.
and supporting, is that the person looks normal, but inside, in their head, what's going on
In their
is something,
life.
yeah, that they can't really identify. And so that's why the need for this advanced imaging. That's why the need for specialists. But in a moderate setting, I would say, the person is, maybe has more of a brain bleed on their head, or more fiber tracts are damaged than more of a mild case. But I would say the symptoms are what really are showing if it's mild
That's
to
what's
severe.
indicating. And
Yeah.
so, is it like other injuries where they're thinking, maybe I'll just get better or I'll get over it?
Good
What does
question.
it improve over time? Does it get worse over time?
Yeah, good question too. So I've seen that people that aren't treating their injury, it will progress into more injury, if you will,
Mm,
because it's like a cancer. If you're not treating these symptoms that are daily occurring, it's
mm-hmm.
going to spiral somebody down a road of maybe depression or more anxiety, or topple it with the PTSD that they're going with. So they are really struggling. And so I would say definitely the sooner we can get them into more of these evaluations to understand what kind of treatments they're needing, the better. Now, can somebody fully recover from a traumatic brain injury? I think that does depend on that person and on that person's willpower and the persistency to maintain treatment and really work on the modalities that are there for them to get better. And that is listening to their doctor, and if they're recommending some kind of treatment, to actually do it, because there's a reason for that. It'll help them on a daily, and over time, our brain is a muscle. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you're continuing to meditate on a daily, and you're maybe using a device like BrainTap to help, over time, that consecutive use of meditating is going to build that brain. It's going to build the neuroplasticity. It's going to rewire those circuits for connection. Our body and our brain has an innate healing mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
And if you give it the right nutrition, if you give it the right brain chemistry with our own thoughts. Our thoughts are very powerful, and if we can really train our brain to think good thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and really understand those thoughts are what dictate our outcome, then that's really important to really continue that kind of treatment to getting better. I believe that if you have, a mild to even moderate case of a TBI, that there is recovery. There is, I believe, a full recovery over time. I don't
That's
know how
great.
long, but yeah, I think,
If you're doing the right
yeah,
steps. Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Um, and it all depends, of course, what somebody's going through. But I would say if you're doing the treatments and you really are sticklers with it and you're determined, I think you can
Right.
really improve.
Frame of mind.
Yeah, it's a frame of mind. It's a mindset,
Right.
as you know, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. So yes, if we can take that into traumatic brain injury and help people understand that,
That there is hope.
there is
It
hope.
can get better. Because
Yes.
I think maybe we can bust that myth.
Yes.
That I think a lot of people think that once you get a brain injury, it's not like a muscle or a bone that you can't get better.
Right.
Isn't that?
Yeah, no, that's a common misconception for sure, because people, just think, well, our brain is so, that's our center, that's our everything. And if you mess that up, what do you have? And so that's why it's good to continue to the nutrition and keeping that brain in a good state. Now, yeah, it is a misconception because people, would think, well, shoot, I can't rewire those split fiber tracks. I can't reconnect them.
Mm-hmm.
You may not be able to reconnect them, and that injury might always be there, but we can always rewire. And that's what's great about our brain is its neuroplasticity will happen if you do the right things. Like I said, like light and sound therapy, we're finding out that that's actually creating neuroplasticity in the brain. And our thoughts, again, are so powerful that if you can really train your brain for that, then you are telling yourself what your outcome is. And but yeah, don't give up hope, because I know it's debilitating to think that, shoot, I have a brain injury that's not going to get better. But no, it's going to get better. It is better. You got to use words like that are already, you're already better. You just once you train your brain more, you will get there. So yeah, there is definitely hope out there.
That's great.
Yeah, so good.
Let's bust some myths about brains. I think a common misconception is that a lot of people think that you can't recover after a brain injury. What is your expert opinion?
I am going to bust that myth, because I believe there is recovery after brain injury. And because the
Excellent.
brain is a muscle, it's just like any other muscle. When you work it out and you continue to be consecutive with it and train that brain, you're going to build it over time, that neuroplasticity that we have in our brain. And one of the biggest ways we can do that is through meditation. And if you're not already meditating, that is something that even somebody without a brain injury should be doing. Yes. So big misconception, brain injury, there is, depending on the symptoms, there is a hope for recovery with utilizing nutrition and different treatment programs to be able to help, for sure.
Because neurons that fire together wire together, right?
Yes. Neurons that fire together wire together. Exactly. I love it.
Love it. Crystal Coast, your host with the most, bringing you Amelia Brummel with TBI Analytics.
Oh my gosh, did we get that?
We better.
That was
Christian
good.
never stops rolling.
I know. He's like, too good.
So we went over the differences of regular brain scans. I haven't asked who's most susceptible to a brain injury, as in, are children more likely to get a traumatic brain injury?
Good question.
Or the elderly?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, that I think would depend as well. A susceptible person, like maybe like an eggshell injury, already has maybe a traumatic brain injury, or maybe they've already had incidences in the past.
Yeah.
Now their brain is going to be even more susceptible, and it's going to, it might get worse, because brain injury on top of brain injury is never a good thing.
Never a good thing.
So, yeah, somebody that's more susceptible, I would think, would be more of our elderly, because they're already, their brain's already, like, I don't want to say deteriorating, but it is, shrinking, if you will. And so that's a common, that's a common thing that defense wants to come out and say is, this person's older. Of course, they're going to have, memory loss or headaches or whatever they want to say that's going on. But that's what's great about having the imaging to prove what's going on, because we can show, the actual damage. We're not just making this up, right? So Somebody that is more susceptible would have to be probably somebody that's already got an injury
Right.
or is older. I think a younger child, I'm again not a doctor, but I know that their brain is still growing, and so yeah, they're going to be maybe more susceptible, but at the same time, I think their recovery might be better because they have, still their brain is still growing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do you ever pair with life planning of like how that's going to affect the rest of
Right.
your life?
Right. Well, they'll do that with life care planning.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a significant enough injury and they know what's going to be, the results of, the rest of their life, they definitely want to make sure that they put that treatment into the life care plan. Because, yeah, depending on the symptoms, again, depending on how bad they were injured, will determine just, what's going to be needed.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, PI Today podcast, sponsored by Trauma Cash, Global Lean Doctors and TBI Analytics. You can find us on our website, www.pi2daypodcast.com, also on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, and LinkedIn as PI 2 Day Podcast to watch all our episodes. See you next time.